Hey everyone, and welcome to another tutorial brought to you by the Minecrafters. I'm Captain Jack, and in this block spotlight series we'll be unraveling GregTech one machine at a time and showing you some in-game applications along the way. GregTech adds a ton of awesome machines and a complexity to the game that may make you want to pull your hair out. GregTech designed this add-on to balance the modded Minecraft experience and make the game more challenging and long. Once added into your game, GregTech's configuration files will override many of Industrial Craft 2's current recipes, as well as recipes from other mods, making some previously easy-to-craft machines much more difficult to make. If you love the additions GregTech brings to the table but don't like the recipe changes, feel free to change your own configuration files as you see fit to adjust your personal gameplay difficulty or take GregTech out entirely. Crying about how hard it is won't do anybody any good. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an information inoculation in this episode of our GregTech Block Spotlight series. Enjoy. Alright, here we go. The Industrial Grinder. Captain Jack's very favoritest favorite of blocks from GregTech. This multi-block is awesome. It will multiply your many ores and will give you a lot of byproducts and basically allow you to turn what you are getting into more than what you would get if you ran it through, say, a pulverizer or a typical macerator. Once you know about this block, you are almost never going to use a macerator again unless you need to macerate a few things like coal dust and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at the Industrial Grinder. The pattern and GUI. Let's take a look at this real quick. You can either use diamond grinders or wolframium grinders, and these diamond grinders are going to require industrial diamonds, which you can make in a implosion compressor. So we're going to go ahead and use the wolframium ones. They just need a little bit more steel and some tungsten plate, which we already know how to get because you've already watched the Industrial Blast Furnace tutorial right over there. Okay, so that's how you make this thing. It definitely takes a little while to make these wolframium grinders. You're going to need to also make an industrial electrolyzer and a basic pump, and you can make one just like that. Pretty easy. You can move this block around with a wrench. You can use any of these. You can use a regular ICT wrench, an electric wrench, or a prototype Omni wrench. If you use the prototype Omni wrench, you're not going to ever get machine parts when you pick this thing up. You're going to get the block every single time. So as always, that's my recommendation. Now, once you have the initial block built, you are going to need a bunch of casings, and you're going to need some reinforced casings and some standard casings. You're going to need 18 standard casings and 7 reinforced casings, and you're going to have to place them just like this with a little bit of water in the middle. I'm not going to give you the layout like I did in the furnace last time. I'm going to try to speed these tutorials up just a little bit and give you all the information you need to know very quickly. So you place it down like this, block of 9 here on the bottom, block of 9 on the top, and then a hollow block of 7 steel or reinforced casings in the middle, as well as a little bucket of water. And if you go ahead and click on this, it'll tell you right over here how to build it. So it doesn't exactly tell you what these are, but that's what they are. Standard casings in the top and bottom, reinforced casings in the middle, and a bucket of water there, signified in blue. Now, the actual industrial grinder block needs to be placed on the middle, and we can see we have a completed industrial grinder rig right here. Okay, so that's how you build it, and we'll maybe do it real quick before I end the episode. Now, what the industrial grinder does and why it's so much better than a macerator or pulverizer in most cases is that it will create byproducts of the ore that you're grinding. So right here I have iron ore running through here, and it's going to give me the 2 standard pulverized iron, just like any other machine would, but it's also going to give me a tiny pile of tin dust and nickel dust, or ferrous, and that's going to be really good. So for every 4 iron I grind, I'm going to get an extra tin and an extra nickel, or ferrous, so that's really awesome. But one of the prereqs that this machine requires is it's going to require some water, and that's what this bottom slot is for down here. So we're going to have to fill this machine up with some water. So I have another industrial grinder here. You can see the bottom is just regular. There's no indication that there's any water in it. But if I flip this switch, some water is going to flow in, and this is going to slowly fill up with water, and it's going to drain down. So you're going to want to supply this machine with a constant flow of water. So this is definitely not the recommended way to go. What I have up there is a Tesseract with an Aqueous Accumulator. Great machine. And that's going to supply an infinite amount of water. So for this setup right here, I have a Tesseract on the bottom, and you can attach a Tesseract directly. Same thing goes for an ender tank, or you can even use Buildcraft pipes. And that's going to supply this with a constant stream of water, and you can see that it's grinding up my iron ore. Okay. Now, this very last slot, just like we noticed here, is set for buckets, empty cells, whatever you run through here. Say if I grab some water cells, let me go ahead and get out of here. Okay, and I put this in here. Oh, let me just show you how it doesn't work like this. Okay, if there's no water, it doesn't work. If I put some in here, it's going to consume a cell. It's going to grind down this iron ore. It's going to take a little bit longer than a macerator, but you can change that as well. We'll go over that in a second. And it's going to bring the empty cell over here. So you're going to get your empty cells back, and however you choose to get water inside your grinder, that's totally up to you. But this is probably the best way, either attaching a Tesseract or using Liquiducts. Now, automating this machine is pretty simple. From this point forward, we are no longer going to be automating anything with red power, or I'm not going to show you any machines automated with red power because the mod was left by the wayside. Unfortunately, it was a really great mod. But you've seen a few other machines automated with red power, so hopefully you understand it. If not, check out our Megalith tutorial series and find out how to use red power. Okay, so this is an example of this industrial grinder being automated fully by Applied Energistics. Great mod. If you want to know how this works, you can see our tutorial series on that as well. Just check out our YouTube channel. Okay, so what's happening here is we have a constant supply of water, and that's coming from the liquid Tesseract right here, and that's being supplied to the grinder. It's grinding it out, and it's being sucked out through the side here. So the input slot for the ores is going to be on the top, and the output slot, I believe, can actually be any of the outside or any of the sides of the machine. The bottom slot will be an input for something else. Okay, all in all, you're gonna have to take up almost every side of this machine except for the front. And if you really want to get down and dirty with this machine, you're gonna have to use the front too, and we'll show you that in just 1 minute. What this is doing is I have an export bus set at the top to export iron ore. It's going in the top, it's being ground, and it's being imported through this bus back into my Applied Energistics system. And you can see here that I'm just processing iron, and I've just reached 1,000 iron ore, but I also have 500 of these tiny piles of tin dust and 500 of these nickel dust. And what you do with these is you put them in a 4 block right here, and if I go ahead and shift click this, 2 stacks. So I have 125 pulverized tin now, and I got that from the iron. So you see how this can really start adding up. So if I put this nickel in here, and it'll turn into ferrous there, and I put it in there, bam, I got a couple stacks of ferrous, and it was just from pulverizing this iron. So this is the main reason why this is my absolute favorite block. It will just multiply your resources, give you tons of extra stuff to play with, and all in all, it's just really great. Okay, here we have this is kind of just a full-blown automated setup, again, with Applied Energistics. I have export buses on top, exporting ore. I have import buses on the side, so you can see this is processing tin, and from tin, I get 1 pulverized tin, a tiny pile of iron, and I also get a tiny pile of zinc. So for every different ore that you process, you're going to get different byproducts. Okay, over here, I'm processing copper, and that's giving me 2 pulverized copper. It's going to give me a tiny pile of gold dust and also a tiny pile of nickel dust. So depending on the ore, you're going to get different things. There's iron again. We've already seen iron. In the back, we have gold ore. Now, before I just move on without mentioning this, you can attach up to 4 grinder blocks to this multi-block, and they have to be in the center middle of the block. So you can't put any on top, you can't put any in the bottom, and that's just like the industrial blast furnace over there. So you're going to want to maximize your use of machine casings, so don't waste a bunch of machine casings attaching just 1 grinder to 4 different multi-block structures. Just keep slapping on grinders until you get up to 4, and you can automate it pretty nicely just like this. I have a Tesseract in the bottom. These are Liquiducts, and these are keeping a constant supply of water to all of these here. Once you have this block, you're going to want to run almost every single one of your ores through this block. Forget macerators, use that for coal dust, use it for diamond dust, whatever you need to do, or pulverizers or whatever machine that you have. Go ahead and run stuff through this machine because you're going to get byproducts for everything, and you are going to get a lot of them. When your quarries are bringing in stuff, presumably that's how you're getting your ores. Let's say you only have 4 of these grinders. Well, that's not usually a big deal because they're decently fast. Now, these are upgraded slightly with 1 overclocker upgrade. I'll get into that in a second. But the rate that the quarry is going to pull in product is not so fast that you're going to get so much that you're always going to have one type of ore always processing in here. So what you can do is you can take your export bus and set it to export a bunch of other different ores. And what I usually do is I set the ore that I'm getting the least. So copper is mainly found in the top levels of the world. So once I've processed all my copper, I'm going to look for ferrous, lead, and bauxite. And bauxite's a really good one to run through there. We saw that from the other machine over there. And you'll be able to process basically all of your ores through a multi-block structure like this. I usually go ahead and make 2 of them with 4 grinders each. That's obviously a little bit later on in game. But I would use this from now on to process every single ore that you get in from your quarries, okay? I don't think there's anything I missed here. I got power to all sides. And I'll go over power and intake in just 1 second. We're automated here. We're going in, we're going out. We don't have to worry about empty cells because we have the Tesseract supplying water. Okay, great. Lastly, this machine and this bus is facing out because I want to show something here. This is an example of me using every side of this machine, and that's because water is not the only liquid that can go into this bottom slot. I have mercury here, and I'll show you what this does in just 1 second. But if you do want to fill this bottom slot of the GUI with whatever liquid type that you happen to have or that you happen to want to apply a bonus to, go ahead. Go ahead and export whatever kind of liquid is through the bottom, and that will fill up that slot here. Now, you will notice that this is supplying the grinder with water, and there's both water and mercury in here. Okay, don't worry about that. It's going to choose to use the bonus liquid, which in this case would be mercury, over the water. So, from just plain, if I take this out, no, you know what? Go ahead. This copper has been ground down, and you can see that I put a bucket in there to force feed it water. Normally, if you run water and copper through a grinder, you're going to get 2 pulverized copper, a tiny pile of gold dust, and a tiny pile of nickel dust, okay? And you know that every 4 tiny piles of gold dust equals 1 gold. Now watch what happens when I run mercury through here instead of water. You're going to notice the difference. You see it consumed a mercury cell, and what's going to happen is it's going to give me the same 2 pulverized copper, but it's going to give me 1 pulverized gold, okay? So for every copper, I'm going to get a gold. And if you don't need nickel, which chances are later on you're probably not going to need it, running mercury through here will get you an extra gold every time you pulverize a copper ore or grind a copper ore. Okay, so this is one of the liquids. I'm going to post a link to the chart that will show you basically what bonuses that you can get for all the different kinds of liquids that you can run through here. It ends up being pretty complicated. By the time you have these, and by the time you're at this point in the game, you probably really don't need to apply many of these bonus multipliers to your GregTech grinders. I mean, the best one is to maximize your copper, which is a horrifically hard resource to stay on top of in GregTech. But I'm going to post that link. It'll be down in the description. You can take a look at it, and you can see what other bonus things that this grinder can take. Okay. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to wander over here to the upgrade board, and I'm going to really fly through this. You guys should know this already. If you don't, again, check out my other tutorials previous to this one. You can overclock this machine. It's just gonna cause a huge power drain. You can use transformer upgrades on this machine, which its default maximum is 128, which is medium voltage, so attaching one of your grinders to a medium volt transformer. if you're going down from high voltage, will work fine. You can apply HV transformers once you've put one transformer upgrade in, because that'll bring it to 512. You can upgrade its energy storage with that upgrade. You can put a lithium battery upgrades, upgrade it even more. You can make this machine take MJ or Buildcraft power, and you can give it a little bit more of an internal buffer for the Buildcraft power with the RS Energy cell. Now, if you mouse over this block here, you're going to see that it's maximum EU per tick is 128. We just said that, and possible upgrades OTBM, and there you have the upgrades and what they mean. Okay, so that's fairly simple. That's basically it. You can see that I've attached redstone energy conduit to this one down here because it has the MJ upgrade, and if you go ahead and use a portable scanner on this, it will tell you that it has 0 of 10,000 MJ in it. It'll tell you the maximum safe input, and you can use this on any of the GregTech machines, this portable scanner here. Let me take this. I'm going to go ahead and wing this around. Okay. You can also hook it up to a GregTech. Oh, it's yanking this stuff out. Let me see if I have some extra ore. I do. I take this copper, put the copper inside here. You can hook it up to It's pretty useless, the GregTech scanners, but in any case, it'll tell you how long it processes each ore. And lest you have not seen the full potential of this, let's go ahead and grab 925 tiny piles, which have been byproducts of other things, and bam, I have more than 3.5 stacks of gold, and that's just probably from copper and something else. So these add up pretty quickly, definitely worth your while. That's the industrial grinder. I am Captain Jack. Make sure you check out our social media outlets listed here. Make sure you use the industrial grinder if you have GregTech installed, because it is awesome. Thanks for watching, and stay poised.